You walk out into your backyard, balcony, or compact garden and glance around at your plants. And no matter what you try, the same frustrating issue keeps appearing. Your garden simply doesn't receive enough sunlight. Thoughts like nothing can survive in the shade, I need a brighter yard if I want to grow food, or a shady garden means zero harvest, start running through your mind. But here's the real truth. A low-light garden isn't wasted space at all. It's an overlooked advantage. While most gardeners struggle because they're trying to push sun-loving plants into shady corners and then wonder why they fail, experienced growers understand something completely different. Some of the easiest, most delicious, and most resilient fruits and vegetables actually prefer low light, partial shade, or even deep shade. And today you're going to discover 10 amazing low-light crops that grow effortlessly in places where the sun barely reaches. If your outdoor space is shaded by trees, your balcony only gets early or late sunlight, or your garden is squeezed between buildings, this list is made especially for you. Let's get started. 1. Raspberries and blackberries, cane fruits that love. Shade. Many people are surprised to learn that raspberries and blackberries, two of the most widely grown berries, naturally thrive in partial shade. You might imagine them flourishing in large, sunny meadows, but in nature, these cane berries grow along woodland edges, beneath tall trees, or in bright but filtered clearings. This makes them ideal for gardens that get gentle morning sun, partial shade, or only a few hours of soft daylight. Shade can actually improve both the development and flavor of cane fruits. Their leaves stay plump and healthy because they aren't constantly battling direct heat. When the berries ripen slowly in cooler, dimmer environments, they often gain a richer sweetness and deeper color. Too much harsh sunlight can scorch berries, dry the canes, and weaken foliage. But shade protects them from all of this. Moisture lingers in the soil, the plants stay firm and hydrated, and they often produce fruit over a longer period. Raspberries and blackberries do require some light, ideally morning sun or dappled brightness, but full sun is absolutely not necessary for a strong harvest. In fact, in shaded spaces, they often continue fruiting longer because the plants aren't stressed by heat. For anyone dealing with shade from buildings, trees, or narrow yard layouts, cane fruits can become one of the easiest and most rewarding crops to grow. If you've always wanted to pick your own berries but assumed shade would make it impossible, raspberries and blackberries may become your new must-have plants. They're durable, abundant, and naturally built for gentle light, perfect for turning gloomy spaces into vibrant, productive berry patches. 2. Blueberries. A fruit that prefers partial shade. More than you think. Blueberries are one of the most unexpected champions of shade gardening. Most people assume they require full, direct sun to produce fruit. But many blueberry varieties actually thrive in partial shade, especially when protected from harsh afternoon sunlight. In nature, blueberries are commonly found along forest edges, under taller shrubs, or in gently shaded areas where sunlight passes through leaves. This kind of indirect, softened light encourages them to grow stronger and produce higher quality berries. Direct, intense sun can damage their leaves, dry out their shallow roots, and stress the entire plant. But in partial shade, blueberries remain lush, well-hydrated, and surprisingly productive. Shade helps preserve the acidic soil blueberries depend on. Cooler soil retains moisture longer and prevents essential nutrients from washing away. Because their root systems are shallow, shaded ground allows blueberries to grow more stable, expansive roots. Under consistent partial shade, these plants develop larger, healthier foliage that supports better berry formation. The berries themselves often taste sweeter because slow ripening gives more time for natural sugars to build. When grown in indirect or filtered light instead of blazing sun, blueberries frequently produce bigger, juicier harvests and stay thriving for years. If your yard is shaded by big trees, if your balcony gets only morning sunlight, or if your garden sits behind structures that block the sun, blueberries can become one of your most reliable and satisfying crops. In many climates, especially hot or dry ones, blueberries grown in shade often outperform those in full sunlight. Gardeners with low-light spaces are consistently amazed to discover that blueberries actually prefer the very conditions that challenge many other fruit plants. With only a few hours of gentle light each day, blueberries can become a standout highlight of your shade garden. 3. Strawberries, a shockingly shade-friendly fruit. Strawberries are often thought of as demanding full sun, and it's one of the most common misconceptions in gardening. The truth is far more surprising. Strawberries can grow exceptionally well in partial shade, and in many cases they yield better in shade than in full sun, especially in warm climates. Under intense sunlight, strawberries tend to suffer from scorched berries, dried leaves, and dehydrated soil. But when grown in light shade, strawberries remain cool, moist, and far less stressed. This slower, gentler environment allows them to ripen at a more controlled pace, resulting in berries that are juicier, sweeter, and noticeably more flavorful. Shade gives strawberries several major advantages. It prevents sunburn on the berries, keeps the foliage healthier, and reduces the risk of heat-related diseases. Since strawberries have shallow roots, shaded soil helps them retain the moisture they need. And because shaded strawberries ripen more slowly, they develop a more complex, richer taste compared to berries that ripen rapidly under strong sun. Gardeners who move their strawberry beds into partial shade are often shocked by the improvement in both yield and flavor. Strawberries can produce an impressive harvest with just 3 to 4 hours of indirect sunlight per day. This makes them ideal for shaded backyards, balcony gardens, and areas near buildings or fences where the sun is limited. They also perform beautifully under taller plants or fruit trees, where they receive light shade throughout the day. Hanging baskets in shaded or semi-shaded locations can also produce abundant strawberry crops. If you've avoided growing strawberries because your garden doesn't get full sun, you'll be excited to learn that strawberries are one of the best fruits you can grow in low light conditions. 4. Green onions and chives thrive with almost no sunlight. Green onions, scallions, and chives are some of the most shade-tolerant edible plants you can grow. They need extremely little direct sunlight to stay healthy, which makes them perfect for gardeners dealing with morning-only sun, late evening sun, filtered light under trees, shadowed balconies, or dim indoor windows. These plants naturally grow in cooler, softly lit environments, and they don't just tolerate shade, they actually grow better when protected from strong, direct rays. Instead of drying out in full sun, they produce taller, greener, juicier stalks and stay productive throughout the entire growing season. One of their greatest benefits is how quickly they regrow after harvesting. You can snip them repeatedly and they will continuously sprout new stems with almost no effort on your part. They also handle overcrowding extremely well. Even when packed tightly together in small pots, they continue producing. Their minimal care requirements make them ideal for beginners, balcony gardeners, and anyone who wants easy access to fresh herbs without complicated upkeep. Since they don't rely on intense sunlight to grow flavorful foliage, green onions and chives are incredibly forgiving. They will thrive in areas where most vegetables fail, providing a consistent harvest even in cooler temperatures or low-light microclimates. They need very little watering, rarely attract pests, and grow steadily without special soil or fertilizers. If you're building a shade garden or simply want an effortless plant that practically grows itself, green onions and chives are unbeatable. They turn the darkest corners of your garden into productive spaces full of crisp, delicious greens. 5. Peas. A shade-friendly, cool-loving crop, peas are one of the best vegetables for dim or partially shaded gardens, and they genuinely thrive in cool, mild light conditions. Unlike many sun-demanding vegetables, peas actually perform better when protected from strong sunlight. Shade helps them avoid overheating, drying out, or stopping production early, problems that often ruin pea harvests in full sun. When grown in softer light, peas stay cooler and healthier, allowing the vines to produce longer, stay vigorous, and create sweeter pods over an extended season. They are perfect for spaces such as north-facing gardens, patios with limited sunlight, narrow side yards with only morning brightness, or any area blocked by buildings or trees. Peas require only a few hours of gentle light per day to produce a full crop, something very few vegetables can do. They also thrive in containers, making them excellent for shaded balconies or patios. Even with filtered light, they climb trellises and strings easily, producing abundant pods. Shade slows their ripening slightly, which increases natural sweetness and improves flavor. If you want a dependable, easy-to-grow vegetable for dim areas, peas are one of the most productive choices you can make. 6. Carrots. Surprisingly resilient in partial shade. Although many gardeners assume carrots need full sun because they grow underground, carrots are actually very adaptable and often perform better in partial shade. Carrots naturally prefer cool soil, and shade maintains exactly the type of environment they like. When carrot greens are shielded from harsh sunlight, they stay healthy and don't burn or stress. The lowered temperatures help the roots grow straighter, longer, and more uniformly. Many gardeners discover their sweetest and most tender carrots come from beds that receive only morning sun or that are shaded by tree canopies for much of the day. Shade also helps keep the soil moist for longer, preventing cracking, splitting, and woody textures. Common problems in hot, sunny gardens. Carrots grown in dimmer areas develop excellent flavor because they grow slowly and steadily in cool conditions, and slow growth produces sweeter, smoother roots. They do well anywhere with mild light, morning sun with afternoon shade, filtered tree light, or alongside fences and structures that block the sun. Since the edible part grows underground, they simply don't need strong sun to flourish. Partial shade produces soft, tender, flavorful carrots and avoids the overheating that can ruin a crop. If you thought your garden was too dark for carrots, you'll be surprised by how well they grow there. 7. Leafy greens, the true champions of shade. When it comes to low-light gardening, leafy greens are the most reliable and shade-hardy crops you can plant. In fact, most leafy vegetables not only tolerate shade, they grow best in it. Spinach, lettuce, Swiss chard, arugula, kale, mustard greens, and other leafy crops prefer cooler, partially shaded environments because shade keeps their leaves moist, crisp, and tender. Under intense sun, leafy greens become bitter, tough, or bolt prematurely, sending up a flower stalk that ends their harvest period. Shade prevents this by keeping the temperature low and the soil consistently moist, allowing the plants to produce rich, vibrant foliage for weeks or even months. Leafy greens can grow where sunlight barely reaches. They tolerate up to 80% shade, meaning they thrive in locations that seem too dark for almost any other vegetable. Give them a bit of morning light or even just dappled sunshine through trees, and they will reward you with lush, healthy leaves. They are perfect for shaded walls under taller plants, in cool balcony corners, or anywhere that receives uneven or indirect light. If you have an area where other crops fail, that is exactly where leafy greens will succeed. With their continuous harvest and excellent flavor, it becomes clear that shade is not a disadvantage. It's the key condition these plants need to stay tender and delicious. 8. Broccoli. A cool, loving, shade-tolerant garden. Champion broccoli is another crop that often surprises growers with its ability to flourish in partial shade. Although its tall, solid form makes it look like a vegetable that demands full sun, broccoli is actually naturally adapted to cooler temperatures and softer light. This plant performs best when the weather stays steady and mild, and shade is one of the easiest ways to shield it from excessive heat. When broccoli is grown with partial shading, especially during hot afternoons, it avoids the most common problems that ruin harvests: premature flowering, loose or airy heads, and florets that turn bitter due to stress. In shaded areas, broccoli forms larger, tighter heads because it grows at a slower and more balanced pace. Shade also extends broccoli's productive season by preventing bolting, the phase when the plant quickly sends up flowers and seeds. Once broccoli begins to bolt, the main head stops developing and the flavor becomes overpowering and unpleasant. But when grown in partial shade, the plant stays cool enough to continue developing a well-formed, tasty central head. The stems remain sturdy, the florets turn crisp and compact, and the color becomes a deep, vibrant green since the plant never gets sunburned or overheated. Many gardeners are shocked to find that broccoli grown with only 3 to 5 hours of sunlight actually produces more reliable, higher quality harvests than broccoli grown in all-day sun. In hot areas, providing shade for broccoli is more than just helpful. It's practically essential. Full sun and warm climates can cause broccoli to fail quickly, but partial shade gives it the stable conditions it needs to thrive. Whether you're growing it in containers, raised beds, narrow side yards, or spots that only receive early light, shaded locations often improve results significantly. For gardeners dealing with limited sunlight, broccoli becomes one of the most dependable and adaptable vegetables you can plant, producing a nutritious, beautiful crop where many other plants simply cannot survive. 9. Beets. Ideal for gentle, filtered light. Beets are among the most adaptable and easygoing crops, which makes them perfect for gardens with limited sun exposure. Although many people assume that root vegetables need strong light to form bulbs, beets prove just how untrue that can be. They grow extremely well in partial shade, soft dappled light under trees, cooler areas along a home, or even in tight garden spaces that receive only a few hours of sunlight. In fact, too much heat or direct sun often causes beets to become hard, fibrous, or cracked, making shaded conditions a major benefit. In low-light environments, the soil stays cooler and retains moisture longer, which is precisely what beet roots need to become sweet, tender, and evenly shaped. Shade keeps the plant stress-free and reduces the risk of deformed or tough roots. It also promotes impressive growth of beet greens, the leafy tops, which are not only edible but packed with nutrients and excellent in salads or cooked dishes. When grown away from harsh sunlight, beet greens stay soft, vibrant, and richly colored because they never get scorched. Another major advantage of growing beets in shade is their natural resistance to bolting when temperatures stay cool. Bolting causes the plant to shift energy from root formation to flowering, which ruins both flavor and texture. Shaded zones discourage this and keep the plant focused on developing both the root and the leaves. Whether you're growing them in pots, raised beds, or narrow side yard plots, beets perform consistently well in low-light conditions. With beets, you enjoy a dual-purpose harvest. Delicious roots below the soil and lush greens above, all from a plant that thrives exactly where more demanding crops fail. 10. Radishes. Quick-growing, shade-loving root crops. Radishes are one of the most overlooked vegetables for shade gardening, and once you understand their growing habits, it becomes obvious why they excel where other root crops struggle. Radishes mature incredibly fast, and shaded environments actually help them develop into crisp, mild, flavorful roots rather than the tough, overly spicy, oversized bulbs that strong sun often creates. When grown in cooler, lightly shaded spaces, radishes stay delicate and crunchy, a texture gardeners appreciate. Shade also prevents premature bolting, the process where the plant sends up a tall flower stalk much too early. Once radishes bolt, they lose their flavor and become woody, but low light slows this reaction and keeps the plant focused on forming perfect roots. Radishes require very little sunlight to grow. Even 2 hours of gentle sun per day is enough for them to reach maturity, making them one of the most shade-tolerant vegetables available. Surprisingly, radishes actually perform better with consistent shade because strong sunlight can cause them to become hot, pithy, woody, or hollow, a common issue in gardens exposed to too much heat. When given cool soil, steady shade, and regular moisture, radishes produce uniform, attractive roots in as little as 3 to 4 weeks. They are ideal for tucked-away garden corners, shaded balcony containers, or dim raised beds where sunlight is limited. If you want a fast-growing, dependable crop that thrives even in challenging, low-light environments, radishes are one of the smartest choices you can plant.